What is up, everyone? It's Robertson, Second Chance Podcast with Jeff Robertson. So just wanted to come in today and introduce our next guest that's coming up, Roy Coughlan. And Roy is Roycoughlan. Roy is from Europe. You'll find him in Poland and Ireland. Um, he was heavily invested in real estate during what would have been the United States as 0708, which led to Europe's similar financial collapse. And they dealt with some of the similar stuff. So he has a really cool story about just hit right bottom. He's one of those guys that was invested heavily in the real estate, and when everything stopped, and um, he was all of his wealth was gone, and it was erased. And he is a testament of resilience and someone that has bounced back from um, from that adversity and is rebuilding and is still rebuilding and probably will always be rebuilding just because of the mindset that he has now. So it's a really powerful episode, and he's definitely someone that we can learn from that has experienced a significant downturn in business. So let me know what you think. I'm excited, like I always am, to hear from you. Thank you. Be sure and like, share, comment, and just let me know what you think. I appreciate it. I can't wait to see everyone soon. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Second Chance Podcast with Jeff Robertson. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with a serial entrepreneur who's created 20 companies, a podcast coach, and the host of 6 successful podcasts. Roy Coughlan. Roy's journey is nothing short of remarkable. After losing everything, including his home and facing $5 million in liabilities, Roy was hit with over 100 court cases and his accounts were empty. But through sheer determination and an unwavering refusal to give up, he not only rebuilt his life, but learned to harness the power within, standing firm against corruption. Roy's message is clear. No matter how tough life gets, you can always find your calling and rise again. Alongside his podcast ventures, Roy is also a partner in BrainGem.Fitness, helping people unlock their creative potential. I'm excited to dive into his story of resilience and hear the wisdoms he's gained through it all. Roy, welcome to the Second Chance Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me, can you walk us through the moment you realized you lost everything, including your home and $5 million in liabilities? How did you process that experience?
Well, I mean, I can look back now and I can smile and it doesn't affect me emotionally, which I think in every journey that we have, and I presume with a lot of your guests as well, I think the journey that we have creates us and we have a different thought process afterwards and we kind of go, I've become a better person because of what have happened, even during the time you don't. So I suppose if we go back, a lot happened. I was working in construction in Ireland and I was doing very well, got a few houses, I had 3 houses, and then I started dating a Polish girl. And when I was visiting her parents, I said, oh, property's cheaper. So I started getting a few properties. Then I thought, okay, this was around '04, I think. There was a lot of people that were buying foreign properties. So I set up a company for Polish properties for foreign investors, mainly Irish. And I wasn't planning on moving to Poland. It was a case of, I'd go 1 week a month. And so we started doing that. Then we set up a few syndicates. I released equity on my properties and got into a commercial property with a few people, a development of 30 units with a few people, and everything was going very well. But then the relationship finished. But we kind of said, listen, you're here, I'm there. We can still make this work. Let's just go ahead and grab. So I kept sending loads of clients and, I was getting big boys and nothing was kind of happening. And then she sent an email to everybody saying, yeah, I've set up my own company and I can look after you. And I would have lost everything because I had released equity and I had all this investments and I wasn't going to put it in the hands of somebody that didn't have the kind of construction experience that I did because I studied construction economics. I'd project management professional. I worked in construction all my life. And I had got all these people, so I couldn't exactly walk away either. And I got them all bar one. Just one client went with her, so, and I built a good business, so everything was going well. I had about 14 people on my books at one stage. We'd done a load of renovations. So like the business came to people who wanted to buy a property, and then they wanted, hey, we need it renovated. No problem, we can do that. We want it fitted out. No problem, we can do that. We want it let. So a load of businesses kind of came from it that wasn't really the plan, and everything was going good. When the crash happened, I mean, with a lot of the syndicates, I was a small boy. There was some people that were worth 10, 20 million. And, I probably was worth about 1 million at that stage with my properties in Ireland, with the equity that I had. And they started losing things. And I thought, this isn't long term. I thought this is just a hiccup in life. So I started putting more money into the commercial. And I basically, I was fair with them. I said, look, if you can't pay at the end of the year, 10% interest, and then I'll just increase my sharehold. I didn't kick them when they were down or whatever, because I assumed it would come right. And I was doing well. And it didn't come right. Like, they lost everything. Governments came in, took over their projects and everything, and a load of corruption in Ireland in that. But at the time, we didn't kind of understand what was going on. So before I started missing payments, I kind of went to the bank and said, hey, I need interest only on the commercial property. I'm going to split it into 3 different areas. And yeah, they were kind of all okay, is grand. And in Ireland, my 3 properties were on interest only. So they were renting and they were making me money, but then they changed it to interest and payments. And I said, hey, I can't do this. And it was like, they didn't care. The minute I missed payment on the commercial, they sent in the bailiffs. And the problem is, the way that they did it is they went in and they said, don't pay me, pay them. Then they stopped paying the water, the electricity and everything, and all that got shut off. All the tenants left. This was a very good property that we had actually, increased everything. We made it beautiful, and they destroyed it. And then when a property is empty, you've got people from the street who come in and just see value in copper, and they start destroying it. So everything just kind of came down like a deck of cards. And normally, with a limited liability company, you'd go, all right, let's start again. In Poland, my accountants and my solicitors never told me that when you're the president, you're personally liable. And I was the president of all these different companies of the syndicates that we'd put together. And everyone kind of, I understand that they had their own battles to fight. So they just kind of walked away and let me hold the crying baby. And everything then just kind of fell apart. And it was seen corruption then from that. So basically, the bailiffs were working with a valuer and say this commercial, I'll talk in US dollar terms, even though it was in Polish zloty. It was worth about 1.25 million. And they basically valued it at 500,000. So the way that the auction works is that like 75% of the first auction and 50% of the second. And what they do is they do like a screenshot. So they have proof that this has been advertised, but nobody turned up. But that's not what happens. They don't promote it. They just do it. They have their proof that it was advertised, and then they have their own cronies who'll buy it. So they were trying to buy a commercial property for 250,000 that was worth 1.25. There was another syndicate that we had houses, and basically what they did is they bribed people in the room, and they basically had their own people buying the property. And like, I'm looking at this and then having court cases and just fighting battles, going to Ireland in the High Court, and just seeing how much corruption was there. So I'm inside in the High Court, and like, I see people, like a woman with a piece of card, and she's shaking. She goes, my husband has died from the stress of, and that he died of cancer. I don't know what to do. And
all right, like I was saying, you couldn't hear Roy, but you could hear me. Just a little briefing thing on the differences and some of the similarities between Europe and the United States and just real estate laws. Roy, before this is, I just lost you there, right when we're talking through. But what year are we in when you're having your?
Well, I know the crash was in about 2008, but by the time it kind of came across, and by the time I get caught, it was kind of 10, 11. We're talking.
So that I'm disconnected, and we're all very front facing in our own news. I didn't, and I probably need to go back and read. I didn't realize that global housing bubble was a worldwide thing. I thought it was unique to the United States and our lending laws. I didn't realize that it affected, wow. So,
And
so
so
for
that
context,
yeah,
if you were familiar with what happened in 07, 08, our mortgage, there was just a downturn in where there was a lot of high risk mortgages out there. And that, so that was a significant event that created a recession inside the United States. And it basically steamrolled over into Europe and into your projects. That's crazy.
yeah, and there was bailouts, so they called it the pigs because there was Greece involved, Portugal, Ireland, and all the countries were. Ireland got a massive bailout, and you would think that the bailout was going to help the actual Irish people who kind of were in serious default and everything. But no, the courts went in through the banks, took all their properties, and they basically paid all the big boys. Nobody on the end got paid. They just took their properties and then they were liable. And like there was one guy I've had on my show and he basically proved that everybody was paying more interest. And I actually witnessed that while I was in the High Court with my own properties because they sold it less than what I had an offer for and they came after me for the excess. And when I was there was somebody saying they had KPMG and they were overcharged €15,000 on their mortgage. And the judge said, when was that? 2 years ago. And he said, oh, you should have took it up with them then. Bang, ruled in favour of the banks plus interest plus penalties. And even with my own case, I'm fighting barristers. Barristers are expensive. Like they're the top notch of solicitors. And he wasn't, like the case was starting in the morning. This is the 8th time I was back now. So I was back and forth the whole time and like different judges. It's a weird setup because normally you have the defendant, the plaintiff, and each represented. This is a room, one judge. So he hasn't a clue your case. But yet, your whole life lies in the hands of him making a decision and how you come across and how you defend yourself. And that's why most people, they didn't even turn up, or else if they did, they were getting destroyed. And when I was there, he started reading the case and he goes, oh, this is going to take too long, we'll do it later. And then he's done it at lunch, done the same thing. He waited till about 6, so I'm there the whole day listening to cases, because if I disappear, it's class that I didn't turn up and I'd lose, so I have to be there. And it sucks the energy. I mean, if you've been in court, court is a horrible place to be. It sucks the energy out of you. So
no matter what side you are.
Exactly. Yeah. Whether you win or lose, you lose. That's the way I see it inside in court. So the barrister stands up and he starts to say in the case. And then when I go, he wouldn't let me talk. And there was even somebody that was sitting there and he said, hey, what's going on here? And he goes, you better shut up or you're going out. And so it was like total corruption. That's not how a court should run. And I knew that. And in the end, I lost on the thing, but they tried to get me on interest and penalties. And I said, hey, I'm fighting this for a year or whatever. And he goes, fair enough. So I won on interest and I won on penalties, which was good because I didn't get caught for the barrister's fees, which would have been a lot. And I said, I want to go to the European Union about this. I want to actually fight this. There's no way that this is justice. This is pure corruption. And what they told me is that you have to appeal it before you can do that. And if I appeal it, in some countries, when you appeal, it's only that amount. But in others, including Ireland, it opens it up again. So it was something like, I don't know, it was a €68,000 versus it could open up the costs of the barrister, which could have been 200,000 or 300,000 at this stage, plus additional ones. So you could be 68,000 versus 500,000. And I wasn't taking that risk because I already witnessed full corruption in the court systems in Ireland, in the High Court in Ireland. And, seen this in Poland as well. So my whole kind of journey is, I then went to an event and it was like, what's your quest? And I just made a decision. Like, I've seen so many people, like, I think everyone knows somebody at this stage because it was so rampant that lost their houses. And unfortunately, people throwing the tolls, there's divorce, there's so much carnage in this. And I said, I do not want this to happen. I mean, this is when it's orchestrated. What happens is they were throwing out money and people with a pulse. There was people that were unemployed were getting $250,000 loans. It went silly. And then they turned off the tap. And I remember there's a friend of mine here in Poland and he was a professor. His wife was a solicitor. They had 50% of the down payment and they couldn't get a mortgage. So that's the way that it changed. It went from throwing money or maybe a 5% deposit to we're not giving out no money. So when you're a developer or you're doing anything, it just stops. And then it's like, oh, it's your fault. But it's not. It's a land grab. It was orchestrated to be a land grab. And it's happening again. So it's like when I went to this event, what's your question? I said, my quest is expose this. And the other thing is, at the time, I hated public speaking. Even though I was working in construction in Ireland, the one time I hated was public meetings. I just hated it. Like, I'd be sitting around with the architect, the builder, and the client. And my voice would go and everything. So I came back, I joined Toastmasters, I joined another Toastmasters. I entered every competition. I got into the final of 5 countries. I done an open TEDx. I did open comedy. I just kept entering competitions till it wasn't my favorite, because I said, if I want to get my message out, you have to come across competent, because, people judge you from the second you step on stage or wherever you're talking.
Roy, I think I did some similar journey. I think I like stand-up comedy better than Toastmasters. I don't know. Toastmasters.
They don't hold back when you're in stand-up comedy. It's like you do it and they're brutally honest. Whereas in Toastmasters, you get the golf clapping, no matter how bad you are, they're cheering you on.
They count your ahs and ums, and in comedy they can boo you off stage, right? Toastmasters is a safe space. Highly recommended. Roy, I speak professionally. I enjoy talking in front of people. Same thing. Toastmasters was something that was recommended to me, and I went through it and just kind of learned. Ended up being our Toastmasters president during COVID. And then after that, someone introduced me to stand-up comedy and some open mic nights. And the first time I did an open mic night, oh my goodness gracious, if you can just get a chuckle out of the audience and even a laugh, it is the best feeling. And it's highly, highly recommend what Roy just said. But that's awesome, man. Listen, you took this massive setback. And it's easy for you and I to laugh about this, just like what we were talking about. But after going through all these court cases, what was the most valuable lesson you learned through resilience and persistence?
I think one is, don't give your power to somebody else because you think a solicitor has your back. He's got your pocket. They'd pretend they're your friends. Every case I've won was based on me paying attention and watching what's going on. And I'd say to them, he said this wrong. He said this, say this, do that. So it's like the most important thing is watch your own back in the court. You can't, don't give your power away. I think even represent yourself. I mean, I was representing myself a lot of the time and I was doing a lot better. And I see the incompetence. I even had a lot of the property stuff went on even longer. So what happened is we couldn't pay the bills on a tenement building that we had. And the people weren't paying. They weren't paying rent. So the city is supposed to then do an eviction. You do an eviction and the city is supposed to provide accommodation, because I don't want anybody homeless. I don't believe anybody should be living in the street. But the city can provide adequate accommodation for people. So they say, we don't have any, which is a lie, but they say that. So then they're supposed to pay us the rent. They don't. So then you have to sue the city to get your rent. And you can't sue it as a whole block of the different units, because we 2 tenement buildings. You have to sue it for each individual one. So then you have to pay the court fees first. You have to pay the solicitor's fees. And as soon as we had the kind of, I call them the rubbish police, the police that are kind of looking for litter, attacking me daily, giving me fines. If people were alcoholics putting a bottle on the window, they were coming after me for that. Technical inspectors were coming out for the building, just attacking me the whole time. So it was and that was a time that I stood up to police officers, I stood up to all the departments, and I just shouted at them. I shouted at people in court when I knew I was being abused. And it was I realised, by not being abusive myself, but by not tolerating their abuse, their heads went down and they just started nodding. Because I think a lot of the time we give the power. There's a load of police officers, they're genuine, they really want to help. And there's others that don't, and they abuse power, and they come in. And it's when you see that, same with courts, there's very good judges as well, Unfortunately, there's a lot that aren't. But when you see that they're corrupt, don't buckle. And once you hold your ground, they will they're the ones that buckle.
What explain what a solicitor is in Europe. What are we referring to when you
Like
say
a lawyer,
Lawyer. Okay,
an attorney. Yeah.
gotcha. Just for folks that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure that I had that right. But these folks are coming along and they're, you're getting the life sucked out of you. Not only are you in this situation, Roy, to where this is a lot of money, and when you've made a lot of money, it's not a lot of money, but it's still a lot of money when you're broke and you don't have money coming in. So you've got a lot of exposure here, and this is exposure that can carry you, can stick with you. But what motivated you to keep pushing forward when everything seems stacked against you? What motivated you, and was there a specific moment that just kind of ignited you?
I think, well, like I had a young child.
Yeah,
I mean,
that'll do it.
I had an older daughter as well,
Yeah,
but a
yes, will
young
do it.
baby, so that was one
Yeah,
that was kind of like, and I was lucky, like my parents had my back, they were kind of understanding it. And one thing that hurt me more, because when they took my house, it was my dad, he passed last year, but during this time, they went to they used to go to the house, cut the grass and stuff, because I was in Poland. They were maintaining the house, that my kind of residential house, not the rental ones, because they were looked after by an agency. And there was a lock on the door, and they had changed everything. And my dad was crying, and that hurt. It wasn't about me losing all the stuff. I mean, you can replace everything, and it was like that hurt when I could see that he got hurt. And things like that kind of give you that little
fire you up.
Seeing so many families as well break up, and I mean, I know of people that threw in the towel, and like, it's when you understand it and you understand how the whole banking works and the whole system works, and they do not care about humans. They do not care about you as a person. They just care about the bottom line. And you just have to understand that and just it is so hard, because your head is in a place of lack of panic. And what happens, like, you have credit card companies and everything, they're just ringing you, abusing you. I wish I had, I mean, I am after getting so much better at anything these days. They're ringing you and abusing you daily. And then you're dealing with, like, the in Ireland, like, oh, we're going to put you on the newspaper and stuff like that. Like, you're after losing everything. You're on your knees. You're barely crawling. And they're just threatening you. It's like a bully boy in the school. And I was like, this is pathetic. This is going on internationally.
Yeah.
And how is that acceptable?
Did they change those collection laws? They changed collection laws in the States after that. Like, you can't, they were calling your neighbor to say, hey, you're living next door to a deadbeat, don't loan him no money type thing. That they changed all that in the States. So they have some pretty strict rules on collections now and what can be collected. Did they change any of that in
I
Europe?
think how they ring people and stuff like that. But like, what I say is, every time now I'm on a call with any organization, I record it. And it's like, they try everything. They like everything that they do. But it's like a mental thing, that's how you deal with that. And like, I just recently, I went to, my youngest child, he's 10 now. We went to Spain. We just came second day. We had a rental car. They broke into the rental car. At 11, we were looking at, we'd done a tour of a stadium in Valencia. They robbed everything. They took the whole lot. And I did not let that ruin my holiday. They took my passports, my laptop, the whole lot. Because I think maybe an older me would just crumble and go, oh my God, poor me. And it was like, no, we went to the theme park. We went to the match in Barcelona. We went to Madrid. We done everything. And, we had to go in and buy more clothes and buy a bag and everything and organise temporary passports. But I didn't allow that to ruin it. I didn't give the thieves the power of taking away my happiness of a holiday that I had planned with my son. And that's a decision you make. I know it's hard. And it's the same going into the court and everything, or when you're fighting anything. Don't give anyone your power, because you control that. Or your anger, just hold, control it. And like, if I say to anybody, if there's anything what you should do for yourself. Learn sovereignty, learn common law, UCC, that kind of thing. And that's the kind of stuff I'm looking, because I'm like, how were they able to take everything off me? How were they able to freeze my bank accounts? How were they able to, fraudulently say I owe so much money, which wasn't true, and take this away and do this? And I'm like, okay, how are the bad boys keeping all their assets? What are they doing? And like just learning about trusts and stuff like that. And the main thing is your signature. So like, you're in the police force. It's like everything that you want somebody to do, sign that.
Yeah.
If I don't sign it, well, what's the situation?
Yeah.
It's the power of the signature. And I've realized that. And there's even trickery with the color of the ink and everything. But I think it goes beyond that. It's like when you sign it, it's like, I accept what you've just said. And I'm not saying there's plenty of criminals out there and different things that they do. So a lot of people think with kind of the sovereignty and everything, I can drive as fast as I want. We do need law and order. We need to have both sides of this to work. But I think even a lot of people that do get into law, they see that the criminals are the ones, they just let them out. And somebody like that doesn't pay their TV license, they're putting in jail for 5 years. So it's sucking the soul out of the good cops as well. That's the system that we're living in. And we have to fight that. And we can't just say it is what it is. It's like expose it, come together, call someone out. If someone is doing something wrong, you throw it out and you tell everybody. Because it's the only way we'll stop it if we stick together. Because it's at ground level we stop this.
I was going to ask you about your power within, and then you just summed it all up. I was sitting here looking at the question, and you are like it is. You can tell that this moment has just totally. I not wish, but I would love to have spoke to you before this incident. I would have loved to have talked to developer Roy and had a conversation with that person, because that Roy now is a very different person. And your setbacks and those failures have motivated you into being this evangelistic type voice of just trying to spread the word and communicate that to people. You've created 20 companies. What were some of the common factors that led to success in your ventures? And then what were some of the biggest failures?
Yeah, that's a nice question. I suppose one is a passion. When you have a passion for something, isn't it? Like I always know when I should get out of something. It's when you're thinking of something on a Sunday night, you're, oh no. Like for me, Monday morning is as good as a Saturday. I'll work all the time when I'm, like I schedule out my things. So when I'm with my son, I'm with my son. I'm not working when I'm with him, but it's like I'm passionate about what I'm doing. So it's make sure you've got the passion. It's like some people do a job because of the money. That's not passion. It's like make sure you love what you do. So it's not a job. It's a part of your life. So mate, that's one of the things. And the other thing is, hire slow, fire fast. I mean, sometimes, like there's different ways of interviewing people. So, I mean, I even when I was working in Ireland, like I hired a load of people for the company I was working with. And I also fired a lot of people. And I think a lot of the time is you can interview somebody. Everyone can bring their A game. They know what to say. They know but then take them out to a restaurant.
Yeah.
How are they with the waitresses or the waiters? Are they respectful? When they're going in, do they hold the door open for someone? They're little things, but you spot it. And they let their guard down because they think they're in the door. And I think when you do that, and the other thing is get other people, like your receptionist. Ask them, how did they treat you? Because some people, they think they're above us, a receptionist. And if you're like that, I don't want you on my team. So I kind of made sure have good people around me. And when you find there's a bad apple, just call them in. Hey, this isn't working. Don't give them a month because they will ruin what you have. I've seen that happen with people that I know. When you have a bad apple, just pay them the month in advance, but just be rid of them. And it'll help both of you. And I always give them a testimonial of what they're good. I don't hold hatred for somebody that worked with me because I'm conscious they have a life as well. They have a family. I don't want somebody to go away and, they have a big X on their thing. I go, look, this didn't work. It's on me as well. I brought you in because I thought you'd be good at such a thing. So I never, I'm still friends with people that I even fired because I done it in such a nice way. I didn't disrespect them. It is what it is. And with accountants, like, I always watch my books. So, for example, when I was doing properties in Poland, I had a Polish company and an Irish company, and I got a tax bill in Ireland. And I read this book. It was written by a guy that worked for the revenue commissioners. It was called Tax Magic. And I said, can I do this, 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 and this? Yeah. And I got a tax rebate. They will never come to you and go, do this, 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 this to reduce your tax. I'm convinced, nobody's going to tell me that, but I'm convinced they're tax collectors, the accountants, because they just want to be compliant. And every time you're doing stuff, like, you want to have as low a tax bill as you can because the money's better in your pocket. It's not as if they're looking after the roads, the schools, and everything. They're not doing anything with the money. So do it yourself and do it legally, and that way it's good. And same with, like, solicitors and everything. I mean, try to represent yourself if you can, but when you do get somebody, understand that there's different people with skill sets. Like, there's a real estate guy will be different to the guy that's an employee kind of guy. Where sometimes people have a relationship with a lawyer, solicitor, attorney, whatever you call them around the world.
Yeah, you're right.
And make sure that they're a specialist in that field. And sometimes you need to have about 5 of them for the different things that you're doing.
Yeah. That happens a lot. That happens a lot where folks will use the attorney friend. I got a friend who's an attorney, and that doesn't. Sometimes that ruins a friendship, right? Or sometimes I've had people use a contractor because it was a friend's. My contractor's a friend, and the contractor fell short. I've heard just different scenarios play out, and you're absolutely right on that. Is pay the money, get the best, get the person that can help you with your problem, and it's going to solve that. Spot on with that, man. You have that rock bottom moment, and this is kind of what I'll tell a lot of people is, once you find your rock bottom moment, it's so liberating because you realize you're still alive. Rock bottom, and having to live in it is looking like you. Had my moments, and looking back on all of them, I'm like, man, I'm glad I got to live. It was hard. It was tough, but what advice would you give to someone who feels like they've hit rock bottom and don't see a way out?
I'll give a few things that I did. One, I got into meditation, and it was a 6-phase meditation, which was like a guided meditation. And it was like, what are you grateful for? Because we always think of the lack. I don't have money, I don't have this, I don't have that. If you start thinking what you're grateful for, child gives you a cuddle, maybe you have a loved one that's there, family member, whatever it is, you start thinking of the things you love. And the other one was, which was very good for me, it was the act of forgiveness. So there was a load of people that destroyed me. They, like builders and everything, there was a line of them, and I could forgive some of them easy, others were hard. And what I did is I brought him back to the child. I said, with a baby, we've unconditional love for a child. Everybody sees a child and you go, oh, a little baby. It's pure love. Yeah. That child was not born with the evil or hatred or whatever, teftness, whatever you call it, in them. It was pushed. They either had an abusive parent, alcoholic parent. Parents were working so hard, they just left them out. Excuse me. And when you can do that, you can forgive anybody.
I think you hit it on the head. The one thing that Roy said that didn't say was during that meditation phase, a lot of times you find the ability to forgive yourself. And you stop being mad at yourself for the shortcomings, for this, for being in the situation, for screwing up what you thought was good, whatever that might look like. But for some self-reflection, forgiving yourself, and then forgiving others, and just putting it behind you and moving on. And that's some good stuff, Roy. Tell me about your role as a podcast coach. And you got 6 successful podcasts. I feel like I'm going to be on 5 of them this coming up, right? What's the key? Speak to that folks that are building these podcast audiences, like myself. And what has been the key to building and sustaining multiple shows?
I think it's sorry, I have a cough there, so
you're good.
It's being consistent. So try to have the shows going out on a consistent basis. Serve. So, like, I love your title and what it serves. It's unique. It sticks out, and people understand it. And I think a lot of people benefit from that. So having something that works, like I've got Learn Polish, does what it says on the tin. I've got the Podfather, it's kind of like helping podcasters improve their game. The crypto podcast, it's about crypto. So, like sometimes people have a podcast and it's like, what's that about? I mean, I knew straight away, like yours, and then you read the description as well, like, but it's like, second chance, which we're both grateful for having. So, and then it's like the marketing. So you create your interview, but like sometimes people just kind of let it up to the world to come and see it. Put effort into the marketing. Go into Facebook groups relevant to that, post it, Reddit, TikTok. It all helps. So, like the most important thing is a good interview, but you have to market. Unfortunately, it takes the energy, but you have to market.
Yeah, take a second there, and I'll tell you. I'll speak to that as well. Is the conversations are like, man, I'm just a people guy, and podcasting for me is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Because I mean, there's not a day, there's no simple way that I'm going to meet Roy Coughlan, but I can through my podcasting platform. You and I probably otherwise would never have crossed paths, might connected on Instagram or whatever, but there's no commonality and there's no message. But podcasting has allowed me to just meet people, and I love interesting people and love conversations. And then I'm able to layer in a message. And one of the messages, like we do at the Second Chance, is what you're speaking to today. Life continues on. And I spent a time in my life to where I kicked the can too long. And I spent too much time just wallowing in my own self-pity when the rest of the world was going on. And I wanted to speak to that. I wanted to use this as that opportunity to tell everyone that there's a Roy Coughlan that's out there right now who is banks calling their notes and is getting ready to go through some down times. It's okay. It's going to sting. It's going to suck. You're going to feel like your reputation is being picked apart and dismantled, but you give yourself a little bit of time, and you're still breathing, and life's just telling you it's time to move on to a new journey, new adventure. Look at what you are. You're went to become a better public speaker, but I want to hear a little more about your BrainGym.fitness. What is the vision behind that, and tell me about that project?
Yeah, so basically, it's a friend of mine. He's from Holland, and he moved to Romania, and he's been studying this for like 15 years, and it's kind of like on relationships and everything, because there's a lot of brain illnesses at the moment. It's on major increase, and we're not paying attention to it. And we need to. And there's different things we can be doing for like reverse aging and just watching how to protect our brains and what things to do. And also about relationships. It's just being open as well. It's kind of a lot of the stuff we talked about, kind of how to cope with stuff.
Yeah.
Because like mental illness is skyrocketing, like they're giving the magic pill for everybody. And like pills have never helped anybody, unfortunately. Like they tell you they do, but most of them are full of toxins, and the side effects are even worse than what they say they're supposed to help you with. So it's like being conscious how to be a better person. We broke it down into different things like relationships, aging, and things like that. And then his name is Arnold, and he basically then takes them through like a 15-week kind of coaching and in groups. But it's like, for me, with my journey, because I've done a lot of the videos with him, it's like, I wish I had this. Like you were asking how was Roy prior to all this. It was like, if I had met him and gone through all of this, it would have helped a lot. So he's had his own kind of journey, and it's kind of just helping people and to be conscious of how to live properly and just live a better life. Just don't take life for granted, and don't be just handing over you're to a white coat or a black coat, whatever coat that kind of claims authority. You have your own authority.
Yeah.
And you look after yourself. Nobody's going to look after you better than yourself.
You'll have to check out Holly Joy McBabe's episode on my show. It's already out. And then she goes by Brain Body Speak on Instagram. Similar message, similar type stuff, but she's a good follow. And she and I's connected and got to be friends over the last year or so. And she's got some of the similar content. And there is and I'm really happy to hear that, Roy, because there in the States, there's a big push on mental health and a big push on not just and what I'm hoping is going to come out of it is going to come out of a little physical fitness, a little bit of meditation, a little bit of healthy eating, less pharmaceuticals, less TV, less scroll, less and more just more of being good people and taking care of yourself through those positive things. I wasn't always this beacon of fitness, right? I own a gym and all the things. And years ago, I did everything I could to avoid all that. And I was very much a lot of my demise and detriments were caused just because I wasn't taking care of myself physically. I wasn't eating the right things. I wasn't drinking my water, all the stuff. And so now challenge the folks that's here, that's listening to Roy, put on your pair of shoes, finish the rest of this podcast. If you want to go back and listen to it again, put on your shoes and a pair of earbuds and walk while you listen. 30 minutes. Just, you don't have to be anything crazy, but just do a little bit of physical activity. You don't have to do burpees and go do power cleans and deadlifts. Just do something that'll take care of yourself. But as we wrap up here, tell me what's next for you? Any new projects or upcoming projects, new goals, or anything you're excited to tackle?
Well, there's always something that's kind of dangerous, but there is one because I was actually doing recruitment when I was doing the property, and I had to stop it because when I moved to Poland, and I'm doing that again because I have a team that's going to help with the podcast and stuff, and so we're basically finding people not just for like helping podcasters but anyone that's looking for a virtual assistant. And, at reasonable prices. But what we're doing is we put them through our system that we don't give, like, say, passwords and stuff. They have access to be working on it, but the passwords are on our computers. So, because a lot of the time people are afraid if something goes wrong. And that way we protect that way. And we've got, like, all their details that they're not going to do anything bad. Yeah. And we make sure as well that the client isn't it, because clients can be nasty as well. And we're not going to tolerate that either. We're going to protect both and, match them. And whether somebody wants help with accounts, social media, whatever it is, but make sure that they got the right person and that we're validating and making sure. So that's one of the projects.
It's like a little PR, like a PR media marketing type group. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, like we do the marketing, but it's mainly virtual assistants. Like, so when somebody is looking for somebody or a team of people to do it, because sometimes if you're doing it in the States or anywhere, like a lot of the time the cost to actually do it is massive. And then you have to pay for holidays, sick pay and all that. Whereas when it's a virtual assistant, you only pay for the hours that they work, whether you're doing 10 hours a week or you're doing full time. But at the same time, then we cover when, if they're going out, we have somebody else that's actually doing it. Yeah, so that's one of the projects.
You never want to take away, and what Roy said, I've used virtual assistants, and especially when you're starting out and you can't payroll that person or you can't carry that full contract. And what Roy's talking about is it's virtual assistant. You can delegate some of your just simple tasks, or sometimes it's complex tasks. I have virtual assistants that help formulate our numbers and just give some pretty detailed reports for me that I'd send her a video. This is what I need, but it was taking me a lot of time to do that each month. And she made it when I needed the report, it was done, versus me having to take 3 or 4 hours for me to try to put that together and get mad at it because I couldn't understand this, that, or other. She made it look very simple because that's what she was good. And so don't just press pause on that part. Just know that if you're looking for help and you need, I'll tell you this, a great way to approach it, Roy, is if someone's out there listening and their tedious task is keeping them from their bigger tasks, then a virtual assistant's perfect for that.
Exactly. Because if you're making, even if you're making only 20 and you can get somebody that will do it for $5 or $10, you're making more. and
Yep.
it's taking you off the tasks that you hate. And usually you'll spend 4 times the amount of time on it because you hate it.
It allows you to breathe. It allows you to assemble that team that where you can continue to grow and hire those regular part-time and full-time employees. I think it frees up time to where you can really focus on where you can take your business. Man, I tell you, it's been good. I'm sorry for the snafu. I've had it happen a couple times when it's across the pond, like we say, the connections will drop out. But man, I wanna figure out. I'm gonna reach out for you, and I'd like to just check back in. Maybe you and I can catch up in a few months. So I'd love to hear more about your progress and how you're working through things, and any projects that you're launching. If it's a conversation that you and I can have, I hope you reach out to me. So
No, definitely. And listen,
um,
thoroughly appreciate you
yeah,
having me
yeah,
on your
this
show.
is this has been good, man. I'll tell you, folks, if you're listening, Roy's one of those folks that has taken a lot of big risks, and he's taken that big risk, and he's said to sit back, and he's been at the bottom of that big risk and been on the other side of that. Sometimes success is not always. I'm working on some new contact, Roy. Growth is not always. And what we see sometimes is we see this big old business like a big old tree and its limbs and it's green and it has all these things. And what a lot of times folks don't see, sometimes when we hit that bottom and we hit these moments, our growth, our growth goes deeper into those roots. And you find Toastmasters and you find your speaking and you find a new network and you're really just building and you're reaching outwardly and you're planting new roots from that tree that should be everybody in everybody else's opinion. That tree should be so big, but in our world, that tree is just a little bitty tree. But if we could remove all the dirt for you, Roy, they would see all these roots that you've planted into the ground that's going to make your next project super successful. Um,
Beautiful. And I think that's why we get anchored. We're
yeah,
anchored in what we do. We don't get moved easy. People don't abuse us. People don't talk down to you because you don't accept it. You don't do it to people, but you don't accept it either.
yeah. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming on and just filling our cups full today. Can't thank you enough. Roy, how can folks connect with you?
So my name, so I know we were discussing it prior to recording, so I call it Coughlan, so it's RoyCoughlin. Some people say Coughlan.com. Everything is there. So when I have new projects, they appear there, so I can keep it simple. Just
Yeah, and I'm
find
going to make
everyone.
sure I put all that in the show notes for us. I'll do a little blog post so make it easy for people to find you as well. But thank you, my friend. Appreciate you being on. I look forward to our future conversations and hearing more about all the cool things that you're doing in Europe and Poland and Ireland and Europe and all the worldwide, all the stuff that you're going to do, Roy. I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you too. I just want to ask the listeners, make sure to give you a thumbs up, 5-star rating, and share with their friends and comment because it makes a big difference and it will
Yeah.
really help Jeff. So thank
Yeah.
you, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you, Roy. Man, I appreciate it, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, and apologies for the internet thing and the
Well,
coughing in
who
the middle.
knows,
I don't know.
man?
Yeah,
I don't know.